Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Fat Loss Basics. Welcome to the Diet Dropout Club, where we no longer are bound by diet culture, but we do it different here. All right. Anyways, I will be announcing at the very end of this podcast the next best thing, obviously, that you're going to want to get into in the Diet Dropout Club. And sorry, my nose is itchy. The weather here is just wild, and I'm over it. I'm kind of done with winter right now. The flipping flopping of everything. Anyway, like everything's just running. And so we are going to be doing a challenge. I'm going to announce this at the very end of the podcast. So if you're interested in a movement challenge, you're going to want to wait around and get all the deets. If you don't want to get all the deets, then just click the link in the show notes and join Diet Dropout Club and get in right now. Okay. So today we're talking about the plateau that almost made her quit, but didn't. I am going to be talking about a specific client today. So buckle up, because you might hear a lot of what you might struggle with in this. You might see yourself in here or in this pattern or in this place. And I'm just going to encourage you that there is there is a way out. There is a plan if you want it. Okay. If you want it. So she was about to quit. We had a few check-ins and she was just very frustrated, not dramatically frustrated, not, some big flying with the airplane in the sky. And she was going to make this big announcement. But the way that most women quit, which is super quietly, where all of a sudden you just don't hear or see the things anymore, right? You stop seeing the posts on Facebook or the really motivational speeches that they're giving, right? But they're just letting go. They're just letting go. And this is not verbatim, but essentially what she had told me was, if I didn't have you right now, I'm pretty sure that I would have just let it go at this point. Like, I'm really frustrated. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, even though she wasn't doing anything wrong. And I'm going to say that it's really hard as a coach sometimes, because I feel like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Right? Because to be fair, where she was standing, nothing was changing. It was the same. The scale wasn't really moving. Her body, her measurements weren't really changing. And she was doing all of the things for the most part. She'd have her one day occasional over calories, but we're not talking about thousands of calories over. We're talking maybe a couple hundred, which wasn't really enough to even necessarily move her too far out of a calorie deficit, let alone a huge surplus. And this particular client has really big swings with her cycle. I can relate. And so she was frustrated, right? Nothing was happening. The scale wasn't moving. Her measurements weren't moving. The pictures didn't look different. And she just was like getting no results in her head, right? So it's not working. It's not working. I'm frustrated. And this is where most women say, never mind. They hit the fuck it button, right? Not when it's hard. It's not when they, mess up. It's not when they have a really bad week necessarily, but it's when they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, that they think they're supposed to be doing, and they just stop and it's not working. So they just stop and nothing's changing and nothing's happening. So they just stop and they hit the fuck it button. But let's go back to how did we get to that place of, like, what is this client's journey with me? So we started working together in July. She was my scholarship winner, and she did phenom. Okay. And those first few months, the progress was pretty quick. I want to say things were moving and progressing pretty quick, right? Her trend weight was moving down. Her body, she was able to put on, she's a power lifter. She was able to put a bib on. And even though she didn't feel great in it, she could get it on, and she was happy with that. She wasn't going to wear the bib just because it was still a little bit not, in her words, flattering for how she felt, which was fine. Right. But her PRs were still happening in her lift. So her strength was still getting better and everything was just kind of clicking. And so she was going in to do a powerlifting meet. And we increased her numbers slightly throughout this end of November, beginning of December timeframe, because when you are really wanting to do well at a powerlifting meet, you need energy. And in order to have energy, you have to eat food. In order to eat food, you can't be in a calorie deficit. You shouldn't be in a calorie deficit working and going into a meet. So the 3 to 4 weeks prior, we shifted her calories up. Now, I'm not going to say that we increased them crazily. And honestly, nothing crazy happened. You know, she was still getting in her protein. Her scale weight, I mean, it kind of just leveled out a little bit. Her training was, intense. And so that probably helped with that data that we were getting back, that we were increasing our calories and not much was changing. And so after the powerlifting meet, we decided, okay, we're going to hang out here for just a week or two, and then we're going to go back into a calorie deficit. And that's what we did. So we decided, okay, 2 weeks or so, a week after her powerlifting meet, again, you're still in that recovery mode. You have to understand that you can't just go back into a calorie deficit, start losing weight again, blah, 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 blah. So we wanted to make sure that that she was still recovering well. So within 1 to 2 weeks, we traveled back down into these caloric deficit range of calories. And everything just kind of stuck. Like everything just kind of didn't do anything. it just hung out there. I'm like, okay. So we're looking at stuff. We're looking at the data. We're looking at how many steps are you getting? What is your training? What is that feeling like? She's a very consistent trainer. As far as her training regimen goes, she trains a lot and she's very consistent in it. So it's like, how are those feeling? And so what we kind of decided is to pull slightly back on the calories, but I really wanted her to increase her step count. She was only getting maybe between 5 to 6,500 or so steps in each day. And I'm like, man, we really should probably push that up a little bit higher before we just start slicing calories. So if that's a possibility, let's try to get around 8,000 steps a day, averaging, doing our best. Now, I know that it's not going to happen tomorrow, maybe, right? There's an adjustment period that we also have to give time and flex for one, not just for us to get into the habit of being more cognizant of getting in more steps, but also for our body to respond. We have to give it a couple of weeks. We have to give it some time to actually work, because most of us are not patient, right? But I could tell, I'm like, we're right here. We kept coming really close and we're bouncing between, I would say 1 and 4 pounds. And again, on her cycles would swing. So this is why knowing and understanding your body is so important, because we were able to, I'm like, okay, well, I can tell we're cycling and or hitting ovulation and XYZ. So we had that data, which is super good. Like that's why weighing yourself every day for all this data feedback is because we could tell like, oh, yep, we're definitely hitting that ovulation state or cycle's about ready to start or whatever that looks like. But we could tell because we had the data, because that's what we're doing is collecting the data. And so I could tell, I'm like, God, we're so fucking close, right? I just needed her to stick in it. I just needed her to keep showing up. But all she could see is, and all she was feeling was, I'm doing everything and it's not changing, and what the fuck, and it's not changing, and what the fuck, and it's not changing. And I'm like, I know. Let's go another week. And then we do another check-in. I'm like, let's go another week. And then we do, let's go. I'm like, we're so close. We're so close. We're so right there. Right. And a couple weeks ago, this is when she had said like, I would have already quit at this point. Like I would have just said, what the fuck? Because when you're eating less than what you want to eat and you're training hard and you're showing up every day and you're not getting the results that you think that you should be getting and your body looks the same and the feedback that we're getting isn't really drastically changing, what's the fucking point of showing up every damn day? Like, why bother? Like, why am I doing this? I could just go bathe in Oreos if I wanted to right now. It doesn't fucking matter. What is the fucking difference? What is the point? And this is where most people hit the wall. This is where so many women, they hit this wall, right? And they don't have an answer, or they don't have somebody to help them go, one more week. One more week. And you quit. You hit the fuck it button, and then everything goes back to where it was. This is where we gain that weight back. And you're like, oh my God, I gained all the weight back. I lost 5 pounds. I gained it all back. I lost 10 pounds. I gained it all back. Yeah, because you hit a hard piece. You hit a plateau. You hit a moment that you were frustrated with, and you didn't know what to do. And oftentimes what we need to do is just to keep going. And it's not because you're weak. It's not because you're not committed. But it's because you're way too close. You're way too emotional. I'm doing the things and it's not working. I'm showing up and it's not working. I'm doing all these things. And this is where that entitlement of like the scale doesn't owe you fucking anything. I said that all the time. That's where that comes into play. Right? Because what's the point of doing it when nothing's going to happen, when nothing is going to change, when I'm not being rewarded for my hard fucking work? And so this is where different eye sets come into play, right? What she couldn't see was her training is fucking solid. Like she's so consistent in her training and she's a fucking beefcake. And I want to be super clear because all my in-person clients already know this, but I use beefcake. That is like a term that I use as of like strong motherfucker. Like she is so strong. She's definitely stronger than I am. So fucking strong, right? So her training is consistent. It's solid. She's still PRing, right? Even though nothing was changing a whole lot, right? The data, I was like, the data is telling me, okay, we increase slightly her steps. We're going to decrease slightly her food. And I was super clear, like, I don't want to take away a lot more food because you're training hard, because we want to support those lifts, because we don't need to be in this crazy steep deficit. And it's a lot easier at that point, instead of taking away more food that we don't want to give away, to just slightly increase her steps. Now, if she was already walking 12 or 14,000 steps a day, well, that's a different story. That's a completely different story. But the fact that we had some space still to get and to flex upwards, beautiful. It's beautiful, right? So I'm like, let's try to keep going. And so she was very in this, and was in this space of like, oh my God, I'm here. I'm like, where I'm standing, nothing's changing. And all that she could see was that nothing was changing, right? Because that's the gap. The gap is what is happening versus what I'm doing. What is happening versus what I'm showing up and doing. Or what is happening and what can I take away from this data? There's a gap there. And we are so close to the emotional part of it. We are so invested in what we're doing. We don't see that space, that gap of the just one more week. Just one more week. Show up just one more week. We're going to do it again. We're going to do another week. Because like deep down, legitimately on my side, I'm like, it's coming. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. And even as a coach, I'm like second guessing, like maybe we're not doing this right. Maybe, right? But the beautiful thing about what I know about her and her history and her past is her ability of understanding how to track food, her ability of understanding intensity of training. I don't need to worry about that. If she's over on her calories, she's over on her calories. She's going to document it. She doesn't care. Like, it's not that she doesn't care, but she also knows, like, this is just data. She understands that. That doesn't take away the piece of, like, but I'm showing up and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. I'm showing up and it's not working, right? And this part here is where, this gap is where most women quit. I've been consistent for weeks. I've been consistent for months. The scale stops and panic sets in. And most people either cut your calories, right? Most women will just slice those calories down. They'll add in a bunch of cardio, which is not a bad thing. As you can tell, we increased hers slightly. It's not a bad thing because she had space there. And again, I'm not telling her to go get 27,000 steps a day, but she had some space to move there. But oftentimes we overcompensate, right? So when I say we're adding in cardio, most women will go like gangbusters, balls to the wall, right? Or we say, never mind, fuck it, button's coming, I give up. And none of these options are necessarily the answer, okay? When we slice our calories too low, it just crashes. We're in a crash, and then we're going to be miserable, and then we end up binging, okay? When you're just adding in a bunch of cardio, it burns your ass out. I'm going to do this HIIT session. I'm going to do this training session. I'm going to run for 5 miles. I'm going to That doesn't fix the problem, okay? And then giving up obviously guarantees that you're never going to get past it, okay? So what we did was we stayed in the game. We made very small adjustments. When you heard me say we took about 100 calorie difference down, and even then it was just kind of like, let's increase your steps to around 8,000 a day, see what happens. We could also slightly decrease, but I'm not overly concerned. If you stay where we're at, it's okay. I really want to be more focused on one little small piece of getting in maybe about 1,500 more steps a day. That was it. So small adjustments, very minor, not big swings this way, all the way that way, all the way this way, all the way. We're not doing that, right? And that's not panic. We are not panicking. We are fine tuning things. And then we wait, which again, most people just can't do. You are so impatient. Okay, we just kept showing up. We kept tracking. We kept training. We kept getting data. We kept getting information. We trusted the process together. Even when there's a moment there, I'm probably sure she was like, fuck this shit. I'm so over this shit. And then I even had a moment of like, oh my God, I don't even know if what I'm doing is right. We trusted the process, right? And I can look at data as a coach, and I can make educated guesses for adjustments, right? I've been doing this for a long time now, but I can't guarantee a timeline, right? I can't promise anything is going to happen, because at the end of the day, your body's going to do what it's going to do, regardless of what I think it should or should not, based off of our data and our adjustments. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we don't. And in this case, I knew that we were on the brink. We were so fucking close. And I was just like, okay, like, just show up one more week. One more week. One more week. And then it happened. And it wasn't this crazy drop, right? At first it was just like a, point something of a pound. Okay. Now we've had another little bit of a bigger drop. But the point is that we are trending downward again. We are trending downward slowly, little bits here and there. Nothing massive. We're not dropping 4 pounds overnight, but we are trending. And she got through that plateau, not because we slashed calories or went crazy with her cardio, or I bippity boppity booed her. There was no magic that happened. She didn't quit. She didn't quit. She stuck in the game. We made small, minor adjustments. That's it. She stayed in the game when she couldn't see progress. She stayed in the game when she wanted to fucking hit the fucking button. She stayed in the game when the scale wasn't moving. She stayed in the game and followed my advice. And that is what made that difference for her. That is what made it work. So why? Why did it work for her? Besides the fact that she didn't quit. When she told me, I probably would quit right now if it wasn't for you helping me. Okay? Having somebody that can objectively look at that data and say, I know it doesn't feel like it, but I know we're close. We just have to stay in the game. The amount of trust that requires out of somebody to say, I trust what you're telling me. And this is where, as a coach, it gets really like kind of chest tightening, because it's like, oh my God, is this the right thing for her? God, I hope this is the right move, right? She trusted what I told her. Keep your calories, kind of the same. Dabble in a little bit of 100 calories less if you want to on days that maybe you're not training or as active. Great. But let's increase those steps first. And that was the difference. She did it. And she would send me photos. Oh, this week I was this, in our check-in, I was at 8,500 steps this week, averaging. Beautiful. right? Most of you are out there fucking flying by the seat of your pants going, I wonder. I wonder. And even this person who knows how to track her food, who knows how to fucking train with not just like, she's not a gym goer. She's a fucking competitive power lifter. She knows her shit. She knows how to train. And still needs an objective point of view to come in and say, one more week, hang in there another week. You can do this. I know it's frustrating. I know it's hard. We're going to give it this X amount of time. And if nothing changes, we're going to do something else. But being patient is hard when you're showing up every day and you want to see a difference. You want to see a change. So when you're doing this by yourself and you don't have that objectivity of somebody else's point of view to help you move through that, to tell you it's okay, to tell you to keep going, to tell you that you are so close to the other side. Just don't quit. Just don't quit on yourself. Do not quit on yourself. And they quit because they don't have that. Not because they suck, not because they're even doing the wrong quote unquote thing, not because they're not capable, not because they don't have enough willpower or discipline, but because they can't see objectively sometimes. And sometimes without that support, it's really hard to go and keep going when you see no fucking progress and you are showing up and you're putting in all that work. And it's so unfair. It's so damn unfair. Okay. So the hardest part of the fat loss isn't the actual starting sometimes because the starting can be very easy for a lot of people. I'm going to start a diet on Monday. And then we get however many days in and then we are like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. This is boring. Or I'm showing up and I only am in it for a week, but nothing changed and I quit. Right? When it feels like you're working for nothing, that's the hardest part. That's the most mental mindfuck kind of game there is. The most mental mindfuck game. I was talking about this with my son yesterday on the way home from our Super Bowl party. And we were talking about the fact that, or maybe it was on the way too. That part doesn't matter. We were talking about, some of the things that he's working on. And by the way, he had a great swim meet. I don't know if anybody is still listening to this podcast, but he had a phenomenal swim meet. He beat the minute mark. He finally broke through his plateau because he kept fucking going. Go fucking team. Okay. But we were talking about all these things and he was telling me about, I really feel like I need to work on this part or this piece or that piece or this or whatever. And I'm like, do you think that you get enough time during practice to work on those things? And he was like, well, yeah. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. I was like, so he was talking about some kicking set. I was like, how many yards are you doing a kicking set? 500 yards? And he was like, maybe 600. I'm like, okay, averaging 600 yards. Maybe 2 or 3 times a week for a kick set. Yeah. I don't think that's enough. Right? I don't think it's enough. So I was like, I think you need to start taking some time outside of practice time, solely specific to work on your technique. You're not going there to swim thousands and thousands of yards in condition, but your technique, your underwater technique, your pull-throughs, your streamlines off the wall, going into the wall, all of those things. I'm like, I think you need to spend some time doing that. Why? Because because he was like, I don't think so. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, okay. When you look at elite level athletes, how many balls do you think Tom Brady threw? How many basketballs did Michael Jordan throw? Kobe Bryant throw? They could fucking do free throws in their sleep, not because they did a couple times a week of practice, right? The whole point I'm trying to make about all of this is when we feel like we're working for nothing and there's no change, it's really hard to show up. But constantly showing up, just like my son did, and finally broke his minute mark on what he's been trying to do. He's had a very difficult junior year. Actually, both my kids had a very difficult junior year swim. He's been trying to break this all season for high school, and he just hasn't been able to get there till Saturday. But imagine if he didn't. Imagine if he just quit. Imagine if he's like, never fucking mind. I'm over it. I'm tired of it. I'm frustrated. Well, yeah, show up anyway. Right? So, at some point, we all get a choice to panic, to cut your calories super drastically, to add in a bunch of cardios, to burn yourself out, to tell yourself you're a piece of shit and you're a failure, and you can quit and you can say fuck it and you can let it all go, or you just stay in the game. You stay in the game, you make these small, tiny adjustments, you trust the process, and you keep showing up anyways, even when you don't see the progress, even when you don't think it's working. And most women who make the progress are the ones that choose to stay in the game. So if you're thinking, as you're listening to this, wow, that's me. I'm doing everything right. Nothing's changing. I'm not really sure what I should do or should not do. This is the Diet Dropout Club. This is built for you. And we are kicking off a Move into March. I always do Move into March as a movement challenge. It is a 2-week challenge of moving your body every single day to help get you consistent. Okay? It's to help get you consistent. The goal is to get you through your first weekend without hitting the fuck it button. We're still showing up imperfectly, however that may look for you. It's going to be the first weekend where you don't, quote unquote, blow it or fall off or hit the fuck it button, where you're not spiraling out of control and you're staying in the game. And this is what happens in the Diet Dropout Club. So the link is in the show notes. You can get in now because the Diet Dropout Club is just a monthly membership. It is not anything crazy. It is $37 a month. It is cancel anytime that your little heart desires. $37 a month. You get access to all of my master classes and all of my challenges, plus a monthly workout training session. So meaning like you're going to get like a little download for a workout. If you're interested in one of those, if you're not sure what to do in the gym, it's a great place for you to begin. This is what you are going to get in the Diet Dropout Club. Plus, asking questions, you'll have a space for that, where I will come in 2 days a week and answer any questions that you might have specifically to you. So I want you to be the woman who stays in the game even when she can't see the progress that's happening, who doesn't quit when the scale stops moving, and who trusts the process more than she trusts this one little blip on the radar that's happening in the moment. That is who you want to become. And that is how you're going to break through. All right, you guys, I hope you have an amazing Tuesday. Last week here of swim as we wrap up on our dual meets for men's high school swimming, for boys high school swimming. And then we just have one more big meet for both club and high school. And then we are headed into spring where it'll be calm-ish, I think, which is kind of gray. So I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I hope you guys are really considering the Diet Dropout Club at this point. If you resonate with anything that I say, the Diet Dropout Club is going to be a great space for you to be in. So I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I will catch you on the next episode.